Kia ora. Do we have the anthem ready to go? Okay. First of all, let us stand together in unity in singing our national anthem. This is the first for the New Zealand Public Party, but as we've seen the People's Movement grow and grow, we're beginning to see that this movement is for the New Zealand people of New Zealand. So it's finished. And congratulations to you all. And we don't have to legislate for love. We don't have to legislate for kindness, because that is who we are as New Zealanders. So, my name is Bill Te Kahika, and I was born in Christchurch. I'm happy to come home this evening. Sadly, I live in Auckland, but that's an economic necessity. Yeah, I was one of those. Who wants to be a Japper, but now I am one. But no, I love Christchurch and I love the South Island. I love Ngāi Tahu and I love the peoples of this land, because we know what it's like to be cold, we know what it's like to have to work together, and we know what it's like to look after one another. And so this is why it's such a special evening this evening, coming back home. So I'm going to do a brief introduction for the man and the leader, Mr. Billy Te Kahika. But before I unleash him before you, I'm going to tell you what we are not. We're not a cause, a single cause. We're not a pressure group banging on Parliament's door. We are a party. But we're a party with a difference, because we haven't come here to sell you policies and then you go away and think, well, should I really vote for this party or not? We're actually a people's movement. It's the people of New Zealand that have said enough is enough. We want New Zealand for New Zealanders! Here's the amazing thing. No one else in Parliament is saying that. Who are they? Who do they work for? Oh, that's right, us. But anyway, I won't go on. Mr. Kahika will certainly delve into that. So, I guess, who remembers what happened on the 10th of April 1968? Off the shores of Wellington. Yep, yeah, absolutely right. It was a Wahine disaster. And that's exactly what we've got in Wellington. It's a wahine disaster. But here's the difference. The difference is, this time, we have to make sure we don't go down with the ship that's sinking. And this is why this election, upcoming election on September the 19th is so crucial, because the very freedoms are at threat. And we will be going down in life as you know it, in New Zealand, as you know it today. The freedom fighters that you are will be legislated and changed so that you won't have any. But I'm not going to go on any further because this is the domain of our leader, Mr. Billy Te Kahika. 8 weeks ago, in the last week of April, he posted a post, and you probably saw him on your computer screens, but that post touched so many people and surprised the response that had come back. But it touched the hearts and minds of critically thinking New Zealanders that we haven't seen in politics for a very long time. So, what is our purpose? I'm going to use the metaphor of gathering up all of the households of New Zealand, and we're taking each household on a journey to the big house in Wellington, because we have to restore the mana of the Parliament of this country to be for New Zealanders and by New Zealanders. Because the MPs, now what's the smallest room in your house? Yeah, so you can only put one person in there, right? Ideally only one person. Yeah, so that's what these MPs have created. There's a whole lot of one-room houses in Parliament, and they're not representing you. So, without any further ado, I'm going to revert into Te Reo Māori, which will basically capture the metaphor of the gathering of the houses to take the journey to the big house. And I'm going to introduce you to Mr. Billy Te Kahika. Nō reira, ko tēnei te pūtaki o tēnei whenua. Ka haere tahi tātou ngā tini whare o ngā motu o New Tyranny, kei ta haere tahi ki te whare nui ki pōneke. Ko tēnei te rakatira, ko Billy Te Kahika. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you to the leader of the New Zealand Public Party, the leader of the New Zealand Public Party, Mr. Billy Te Kahika!
Tuhia ki te rangi, tuhia ki te whenua, tuhia ki te nako o ngā tangata. Ko te mea nui, ko te aroha a ihu kraiti. Ko te wiki te ato me whakakorori atono ingawa katoa. Kia tau mai te manakitanga ki runga I te kingi a ihu kraiti pai mairere ke iaia me tono whare me te hui mea nui o tēnei pō. E te mauri o te whenua o te Waipounamu. Nā mana iwi, e nā uri o whānau whānui o te iwi kai tahu nā mihi mahana nui kia koutou I roto e nā ahotanga o tēnei pō. E te iwi katoa, nau mai haro mai. E te iwi nā hui e wha, nau mai haro mai ki te tautoko e te kaupapa whakahirahira tēnei ki runga e te korowai a ihu kraiti. Nō reira, e te whānau Māori, e te whānau Pākehā, e te whānau South Africa, ko whānau ko tahi tātou. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā nō tātou katoa. Greetings everybody, you look so different in real life. It's been an interesting day for me, and I guess some of you would have seen my broadcast today. And the last couple of days have been really like some magical supercharge of the party has happened, but also some very, very serious issues are being ramped up as well. One of them was the contact that was made of us by a family that was locked down and quarantined by the military in Auckland, who were absolutely desperate and beside themselves with fear and concerns that nobody was helping them with. They had an autistic son that didn't want to be tested. They were all tested 14 days ago, all proved negative, but they weren't going to release them tonight actually as planned. So the lady got in touch with me and said, Billy, no one in New Zealand can help us. So we got to work immediately to do just that, to help this lady. So we blew the lid. We went straight to the media. My party associate in the middle here, our director Michael Stace, wrote a press release, got in touch with the media, and we used the might of the media to threaten the Royal New Zealand Air Force and the Ministry of Health to be logical and look after the rights and democracy of this whānau, and they're being released tonight at 8:20 p.m. But we've also been concerned with a threat against my life that we received a warning from some of our dear friends, former servicemen like mine. We call them Tier 1 brothers, Tier 1 New Zealand, 1 NZSAS members that are looking out for me, who I acknowledge their leader. And we had potentially a very, very serious threat aimed at me, and we take all such threats seriously because, whānau, there are some people that do not want us to succeed in the endeavour of the campaign that you and I together as one family unit have launched, and that is to restore democracy in the House of Representatives in the New Zealand Parliament. So we need to take these things seriously. My family, I run my poor wife who's only just got home from being on the road, and I got her and the kids out to our whānau's place up north. And so this is what we're dealing with. This is what we're dealing with. There are foreign interests in our country and external to our country that want New Zealand for themselves at the exploitation of us. And when I say us, I mean New Zealand-born citizens, but I also include our immigrant whānau that come here and want to integrate and support this beloved country of ours. So there is, in my heart, my mind, there is no distinction between us, when I say us, to any race. This nonsense about Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. Yeah. Thank you. But I'd like to welcome you all this evening, like the wonderful Christchurch team that have put this together with very, very, very little warning. And look what they've achieved tonight. You wonderful people have come in tonight. I'm so very humbled that you are all here and have given me your time, your support, to come and hear what I say on behalf of many, many, not hundreds, not thousands, not tens of thousands, but now hundreds of thousands of Kiwis are concerned with, just like you and I. And what I'm saying tonight is on behalf of all of us. But I do want to point out I am the most reluctant politician you have ever met. Before I get into my presentation, I really want to start with answering some questions about who I am and how did I get here, because I'm still digesting the how did I get here part myself. But I am a husband, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather to father to 6 children and 2 grandchildren. I've been married twice, but been longer with my current wife than my first one. I have a Māori father and a Pākehā mother that I love and adore both of them. I grew up in a state house in Māngere in South Auckland, and even though my mother's family were quite well off, we weren't. We lived a very, very good, very happy childhood and a very happy life, but a very humble life in terms of means. But now I live on a small farm with my family. We homeschool, we live a very quiet and humble life, and a big night for us, and I mean this sincerely, is Whittaker's Chocolate and Little House on the Prairie. Very true. But before anything, I am a committed, Bible-believing, Sabbath-keeping Christian, and I believe that the Bible tells us clearly what is happening at the end of time, and that God's people at the end of time are identified in two very simple terms: those who keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. And as a humble Christian, I believe that we are in a war right now. If we park the faith on the side, from a geopolitical side, that is what I'm here to do tonight, to discuss with you. But my wife and I have a small ministry in Northland. We look after a small flock up there, and we also have an Auckland-based ministry looking after homeless people on the streets of Tamaki Makaurau. I was an international guitar player. That's now been dissolved. I'm a former soldier. I was a member of police until I resigned under pressure for reporting an oddity in my recruitment. I am a small businessman where I've been involved in helping the Māori economy in particular to grow and be independent. I've worked internationally in major event tourism throughout the Pacific, and also worked on economic development with First Nations organisations in both Canada and the United States and in Europe. I've sought business for Māori business with Chinese businesses that didn't go anywhere. When I approached a group of people that wanted to know about Māori business, my hand went up immediately. So I went to an initiative in Auckland, presented at it on behalf of the Māori economy that I was in touch with, and that was really about trying to help struggling Māori businesses to find better ways of doing business, and part of that is through international trade. No selling of our land, just better prices for our products. But I've also been to the United Nations in 2016, where I had a fantastic concept that I had developed when I was at Auckland Council for a major Indigenous event to be held here in New Zealand. And when I was at the United Nations in New York, I got to meet Helen Clark at the meeting and said to her, hey, look, this is a great thing. We're going to bring all of the Indigenous communities around the world. I'm talking Celtic people, Sami people from Scandinavia, Africa, of course, South America. We're all going to come together and work out how we can work together in economic development and cultural exchange. But we didn't receive any funding from that trip. Why? Because I was not prepared to become a non-government organisation, NGO registered and recognised organisation under the United Nations framework. So we didn't receive that money for that. However, but since I took this movement on, and we're going to go into breaking that down pretty shortly. Since this movement began, I've been painted as a United Nations secret agent working as controlled opposition amongst the population of New Zealand. I've also been labelled a Chinese Communist Party agent insider trying to sell Māori land and committing treason. It's been accused that I'm a Scientologist and that I'm a Freemasonry supporter, despite lecturing against Freemasons. It's also been claimed I'm an abortion industry executive, despite my opposition to it. I'm also a racial separatist, despite preaching the opposite. Apparently I also work for the Māori King, and I'm forming a global reserve bank with him. And I am a conspiracy theorist because I talk about the things that once upon a time would have been called critical thinking. They've done a great job out there, haven't they, to discredit people who ask the questions as being conspiracy theorists. And of course that's a psychological operation. But most of the grief I receive are from people who are members or candidates from other parties, such as the New Conservatives, One Party, Outdoors Party, and I'm described with such horrible names, family, I don't even recognise who it is that they're talking about. But what am I? Who am I? I am someone who never wanted to be a politician or to work in the beehive. I only wanted the quiet life I had with my beautiful family. But I do care very, very deeply for our country, for our freedoms, for the futures of all children, and seeing people being saved. Yet through the envy and the selfishness of the minor parties, and also, of course, the hostility of the big ones, they're trying to lead a discrediting campaign. But I also recognise that people have legitimate fears and concerns about me. Why? Because how does someone from a 23-acre farm in the bush of Northland suddenly find himself at the front of the third largest political party in New Zealand in 4 weeks? It's because you can't plan this type of movement. You cannot plan it. It doesn't matter how much money you've got, and we've got evidences that, the top party last year, they spent their millions, Kim.com, he spent their millions, but they never caught on with the public because what they stood for didn't mean enough to the people of New Zealand. Whereas what this is here, as Bill Kaitiana said, this is what we all believe, that we're not selling policies because you are and I are the policy makers. And that's the difference. And that's why with no money, we've had over 1 million people engage with us. We now have 3,500 registered members of our party, and we will be very, very shortly right up there with National and Labour in terms of membership numbers. And that's never been done in political history of New Zealand. It's never been done. So, how did this begin for me? So, like you, when the COVID-19 health crisis was announced, I was very surprised by it. And when it was announced, my whānau and I were going through O'Hare International Airport in Chicago on the way into Chicago for me to do some performances with my mentor, and so I love his guitar playing very much, a famous bluesman called Buddy Guy. He's a friend of Eric Clapton's and friend of Steve Ray Vaughan's and the Rolling Stones, and I had been selected as the first New Zealander to play with him at his famous blues club during his festival. So when we were going through, it was announced and we thought, oh no, we're overseas, here's this COVID-19 thing. But 9 days later, we left the United States, came home to Aotearoa, New Zealand, but by the time we got here, when we landed, COVID-19 was everywhere. And the world's media pumped out, and New Zealand mainstream media, all you saw was COVID-19, 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 just being pumped out as hard and fast as they could get the message out. But it was fear, 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 and warfare. So what did I do? I thought, oh my goodness, okay, because of my background, and when I was in the New Zealand Army, I was very blessed. Even as a new private, I've only been in the Army for about a year or so, I was able to go and complete the introductory courses to the New Zealand Military Intelligence Corps, which is 3 courses over about a month. And I completed them, and they teach you skills. What do they teach you? I'm glad you asked. Initially, what they teach you is how to decipher information, how to collect information, how to put it together, chop it all up into sectors, and make evaluations out of it. And out of those evaluations and analyses, that you come up with probable actions and probable outcomes, right? That's taking things like population, mood, geography, moonscape, sunlight, all that sort of stuff. And what they teach you how to do with this, what to do with this information, is to bring it all, break it up into A, B, C, D, E, F, G, for example, and then you mix and match the different things of how that could affect an outcome. But it's a very disciplined way of doing this that they teach you, because if you go off on a tangent and you come up with the wrong assessment and you tell the two-thumb parts of your combat team that you think something's going to happen and you based it without knowing the facts, people are going to die if you get it wrong. So they're very, very harsh and very, very hard on how they teach you this discipline. So that's a backdrop to me and how I look at things and assess things in life. And I've been like that ever since I left the military. And of course, I've done my biblical study and all the prophetic books, Daniel and Revelation. I've got a good grasp on that. So I've always known something was coming down the pipeline, but I didn't know what the mechanism would be to deliver these things that I knew that were coming. So, COVID-19 fear all throughout New Zealand, so I thought, right, okay, my whānau and I, we're going to lock down immediately. So a week and a half before the lockdown, we were locked down because I was very concerned that what I was seeing being released on the world was a highly lethal, weaponised virus, and I was not going to let my community and my whānau suffer that. So I was out there saying, everyone, look, lock up now, don't wait for the government, just lock up. So whānau and I went down to countdown, stocked up on all our food and toilet paper. I'm just kidding about the food. I'm just kidding, we're really self-contained. We've got a garden and we eat out of that as much as we can. And we stocked up and really, we shut our gates and we locked ourselves away, and it was cool for us because we homeschool our babies. And we're self-sufficient, and we are very rural. So life was pretty good for me, and I was able to spend time with my whānau and just dedicate ourselves to, time with God and time together as a family. Running again, I pretended I was in the army and even had my old army training shirt on, and I was going for it. But what happened was, after about a week of this, that all becomes regimental in your day, and you think, okay, well, it's getting a bit boring. So what I started to do, I started to pay attention to the narrative that I was hearing on mainstream media and hearing the narrative that was being broadcast in local New Zealand media. I paid really close attention to it because I wanted to know what was going on. But what happened was, over a few days of listening to the narrative, I started seeing contradictions between the so-called experts involved in the narrative. I started seeing little fractional changes that didn't make sense to me around the story about COVID-19. I started seeing that certain people that were meant to be working with these certain people over here were contradicting each other, and the story starting to change. And for me, that's when the red flag went up. So what did I do? I put my thinking cap on and my research and investigation hat on, and I really started to dig into the narrative and start to unpack it all. And what I did was I created what I call the map of the chain of evidences, and also the map of the chain of actors and players involved in the narrative, and this is where I started. So first person that I wanted to look at was Dr. Neil Ferguson. Who's heard of Dr. Neil Ferguson? Okay. Who was Dr. Neil Ferguson? Dr. Neil Ferguson is one of the very head research scientists at the Imperial College in London in the United Kingdom. But the interesting thing about Dr. Neil Ferguson is that he is the original boy who cried wolf. He is the original the sky is falling kind of guy. And what do I mean by that? Because on a couple of previous occasions, he had said to the United Kingdom population, oh, there's a virus, it's deadly, hundreds of thousands of millions of people are going to die, let's lock down. And he's done it twice before and without basis, and he got criticised and went away and hid himself. But he came back hard when the COVID-19 thing was announced, and this is what he did. He stood on the loudest platform that he could, and he said, the COVID-19 health crisis, the COVID-19 virus is the most devastating, lethal virus ever to hit humankind since the Spanish flu. He said that unless we took dramatic measures that this thing would kill hundreds of thousands, millions, tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of people if we didn't confront COVID-19 in the right way. A few days later he got up and he said, again on this big platform, and he said, guess what? It's really bad. Not, you always started off bad, but now it's worse. This virus is unheard of. This is lethal as. To give you sort of, I guess, an indication, if you look around the room and wipe out a third of you if you got it, that's what you're looking at. So this is a very, very highly lethal virus, and everybody took notice of it. But he said that unless we confronted this as one global unit to confront and defeat the spread of COVID-19, unless we did that, then we would experience tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of deaths. So what happened was the entire world went, my gosh, this is terrible. Let's lock down, let's respond as a global unit. Notice the term global unit. That's Neil Ferguson. Let's park him over here. Then arrives on the scene Dr. Anthony Fauci. Who knows him? Okay. Who was Dr. Anthony Fauci? Dr. Anthony Fauci, of course, is President Trump's civilian head of the COVID-19 health response medical team. And he stands up and says, this is the most lethal virus ever to hit humanity. We've got to lock down the United States, and world, look at us, because you need to follow us. We need to lock down the United States, and we all need to practice safe distancing, and let's do it. Let's park Dr. Anthony Fauci up. And then who arrives on the scene but Dr. Bill Gates? Oh, sorry, it's not doctor, is it? Then Mr. Gates turns up, and he says, this is the most horrendous disaster to befall humanity. This is a serious virus. It's going to kill loads and loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of millions and gazillions of people, and that everybody on God's earth must be vaccinated, and he would be the guy to do it. What a great guy. He stood there and he said with a straight face that his company would rush develop a vaccine that would devastate the virus, and that his company and his program development should be rolled out across the globe. But let's break that down a little bit, because Bill Gates is a very, very smart guy. He's a commercial guy. And he was caught out just over a year ago on American TV when a reporter said to him, look, you know, jeepers, you know, you've got all these successful businesses going, why are you involved in vaccination and vaccines? And sometimes when these guys are cornered, they put their feet in their mouths, don't they? And he said, well, you know, if for every $1 I put into vaccine development, I get $20 back. Does that make good commercial business to you? That sense that does, doesn't it? So here's a guy saying, hey, look everybody, this is the worst thing since humanity began, and my company's going to help provide the answer to solve it and protect all of humanity. Then re-enters the scene Dr. Tony Fauci, National Director of the National Institute of Health, but also involved in other types of research at CDC, Centre for Disease Control, who of course are the regulators of pharmaceuticals and vaccines. He's also involved in programs at Fort Detrick, North Carolina, in the Military Bioweapons Science Laboratory. But what he doesn't tell you is a couple of things that really caught my attention. Number one, he sits as a board member of the executive board for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So he's in business with Bill Gates, and they're singing the same narrative about everyone's got to lock down and everybody's got to get vaccinated, right? But what he also didn't mention was, and this has been confirmed by Judy Mikovits, and Dr. Judy Mikovits, and who's heard of Judy? Yep, great and brave lady. And she's not anti-vaccine, she's pro-choice like I am, even though my son was devastated by the MMR. But what he didn't mention is that he helped support a Chinese scientist come into the United States at a time when there was a moratorium on all type of investment, either inward or outward, with foreign nationals in this particular field. And this Chinese scientist comes in to basically study the bat virus, the corona bat virus. Now, the corona bat virus in nature won't successfully viably transmit to a human body. So what did they do? They developed and modified the corona of the virus so that it could make that transition. But what happened after that, this Chinese scientist then gets paid out $3.7 million US. Now, I just want to quantify that a little bit. And that 3.7 went with her to the Wuhan Science Lab. Now, Trump has exposed this, a lot of other people have exposed this, and so all of a sudden, Dr. Anthony Fauci did the Michael Jackson moonwalk into obscurity at the back, because when this came out, it made them all very, very, very dodgy, right? So this lady takes the virus, goes back to Wuhan, where by accident it's released at the local Chinese bat takeaway. Okay, Bill Gates, Anthony Fauci, Dr. Neil Ferguson, and then who appears on the scene, the WHO. Now, when the WHO first got into this topic, they were very, very reluctant to call it an epidemic. They really, really, truly were. And what happened was, because they were so reluctant to call it an epidemic, they got a phone call from Mr. Bill Gates, who said to them, hey, you know that $53 million that you're about to get from my foundation? Yeah, I just wanted to confirm that this is an epidemic that we're dealing with. And of course they said, of course, Mr. Gates, it's an epidemic. Next day, Tedros had another media campaign, a media announcement, and that it was a global epidemic. And hey presto, just a few days later, the WHO receives the grant. You see, the thing with public money, or public organisations, or NGOs like this, they have a thing called discoverable funding. They can't hide these types of funds. So this is not hidden information that I'm talking about with you. This is not conjecture. You can find it all out yourselves. It's not hard to find. Okay, so the WHO calls it a pandemic, and who was the WHO headed by? Tedros, who's not a doctor. But who was Tedros? Tedros is a former senior member of the Australian People's Liberation Front Army, and they led a bloody coup in Ethiopia. But during this type of civil war environment, a lot of his people caught cholera, and he was the head of the medical organisation in Ethiopia, and he didn't treat these people because they were in opposition to him. So literally hundreds, if not thousands, of people died under his care. But this group is a Marxist socialist group. That's what they are. Just go look it up. Don't take anything that I say just at face value. Look it up. If you can improve on my understanding of things, please do. Because I'm 47 now and I don't remember everything. All right. But Tedros, make no mistake about it, is a communist. He's a Marxist. And as soon as he gets into power at the WHO, he goes and says he wants Robert Mugabe, one of the greatest war criminals of all time, to become the WHO ambassador. So Robert Mugabe, if you want to have a look at a criminal who kills his own people, black and white, then just look up Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe. He's a criminal, and Tedros wanted him to be what? You guessed it, the WHO's ambassador, and that got squashed really quick. So when you go and investigate that, you have to dig. You won't get it in the first look or the first couple of pages, so you've got to really dig in. WHO here. And they pick up on the themology that 3 to 6% lethality of this disease, horrible disease. Then who enters the scene? Dr. Ashley Bloomfield, Director General of the Ministry of Health. But who is Ashley Bloomfield? He is the unelected head of the New Zealand Ministry of Health, but he's also you guessed it, WHO. But how so? Because between 2010, 2011, he was one of the executive doctors for the infectious diseases unit. Sound like a coincidence for you? No coincidences exist. This is all well known and planned out. So this is the first part of the chain of actors and players, and every one of them are singing from the same song sheet, every one of them are connected, and every one of them are bosom buddies. And then who enters the scene? Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern. Now, please remember that my intent here is not to slander. My intent here is not to discredit. And certainly as a Christian, my approach here is to ask the questions and to raise the concerns around the people that I'm talking about. And then you guys make up your mind. Is that fair? Yeah. I think it's fair. Jacinda Ardern, of course, when she was a young lady, when she kicked off her political career, she was an assistant for Helen Clark. Who was Helen Clark? Former New Zealand Prime Minister, but also the globalist of all. She is the matriarch of the New World Global Order, without doubt. She got to number 3 in the United Nations organisation, and you do not get to number 3 in the United Nations unless you are firmly rooted in the core of the program. You don't get there by accident. So Jacinda starts off her political career as an assistant with Helen Clark, and then after that she goes to work with who? Gee, you guys, I want to talk. Tony Blair, Prime Minister of Great Britain. And while she is there, she gets further inducted into the globalism narrative. And why do I say that? Because when you understand Tony Blair and what he stood for, and he's a war criminal as well, he killed thousands of poor children unnecessarily in Iraq. He did. And I don't say that easily because some of my brothers that I've served with and are still in the military have served in Iraq and Afghanistan. But it's not about the men and women that serve in the military, it's about the people who deploy them and for the reasons they do that. So Tony Blair is now, of course, a peace ambassador for the United Nations. So she comes back to New Zealand around 2008-9, and of course she kicks off her professional career as a professional MP. And in 2009 she becomes the elected president of the International Youth Socialist Organisation. Now, what I want you to do, I want you to check that out and examine that for yourself. The International Youth Socialist Organisation. But it appears to me that that's an incubator organisation for Marxists, for socialists, for communism. You can say whatever you like, oh, but they do good things with the youth. Yeah, they're a great place to start to indoctrinate kids into socialism. And a little footnote here, when I was growing up, when I was a kid, I used to think I was a socialist. Why? Because I was growing up to believe that socialism was making sure everyone had pie, everyone was good, everyone had clothes and somewhere to live, everyone cared for each other, and we all had enough. And I loved the environment. I thought that was socialism. That ain't socialism, that's called being a Kiwi, isn't it? Does that sound right? It does, eh? So I want you to check out this organisation, because it appears to me that this is an incubator organisation, because when you find out who's who in the zoo in the list of presidents and people being in it, they've all gone on to high-level government jobs or high-level UN jobs, or they become prime ministers, as we've seen today. But they are fully indoctrinated. They are fully indoctrinated. Bloomfield, his indoctrination ideology no doubt, we've had a lot of influence by the WHO. Right, now that's the background. Let's get into it. So New Zealand has just endured the greatest disaster, and is still enduring the greatest disaster to ever hit our shores. More disastrous than any earthquake, than any tsunami or tornado, we are enduring this Labour coalition government under the communistic leadership of Jacinda Ardern, I'm afraid to say. The threat that this government represents to all New Zealanders is greater than any war or threat of war we've seen as a country, and I've spoken to old soldiers who've been to war and they are scared. You speak to immigrants that have come from East Germany or Poland or Russia and that have lived in communist regimes, they know what this looks like and they know what this is. They know what this is. Ask any one of them. I had a beautiful East German couple approach me in New Plymouth, and their knees were shaking when they were talking to me. They've been here for about 20 years, and they said they can't believe what they're seeing, and New Zealand is sleeping through it. They can't believe it. But I believe that this New Zealand government, that unless stopped, is going to lose and kill and destroy our democracy. We'll see our economy destroyed so that we are state-reliant, and I believe that a totalitarian socialism regime is going to be imposed on us through the full implementation of the United Nations programs, Agendas 21 and Agenda 2030. And believe me, this is not a conspiracy. Google it, go to the UN.org website, and you will see it there. Who knows about Agenda 21 and 2030? You should all do. Pretty much of you. Right. So when you go to the website and you look at it and it all comes up, it looks all really nice. Like I said, we're all Kiwis, we love our environment, we want to see our environment be green and clean and supported, don't we? We all want that. But when you read through Agenda 21 or 2030, they'll use really beautiful terms like sustainability, social equity, social justice. Really beautiful words like that, but it's only when you break it down and you look at what these terms actually mean, you get creeped out and you realise, hold on a second, I'll just get a blank pen, go across the word sustainable and just put control. And when you look at it in that light, it all becomes very, very obvious to you. It does. And one of the ladies that I respect greatly that is fighting the fight against Agenda 21 and 2030 is an American lady called Rosa Koire. Who knows about Rosa? Well, you guys are switched on. Rosa Koire, K-O-I-R-E, YouTuber, Rosa Koire. She is one of the world's leading experts. There's lots of them, but I like her because she's in court right now in the United States, battling states and counties and cities about the introduction of Agendas 2030 and of course Agenda 21. You see, the interesting thing about both of these programs is that they don't necessarily need to be decided upon in Wellington to be introduced into New Zealand. They come through the back door through local government. And Hamilton City Council was one of the first to do it, and then when you go into it, then you'll find out, or a lot of councils have already adopted it. And that was 20 years ago. That's how long this has been around. So, but what is it about Agenda 2030 that really has me worried? What is it? Well, number one, if they have their way, they will see every New Zealander that lives in the rural or provincial places squeezed in fact, all of us pushed into high density population zones of what we would call cities. Right? So everybody gets crammed in together, right? Voluntary or involuntary, doesn't matter. We go all crammed in together, and what happens is, of course, they can control you better, can't they? right? They can control you better when you're all together like that in such a highly densely populated zone. But within Agenda 2030, once they get you there, they control what you eat. They control what you grow if you want to grow your own clay. They control what you're allowed to do with your health and medical. They control what you buy, how you buy it. They control your education of your kids because they want to indoctrinate them immediately. They control the legality of how you apply for resource consents, centralised through the United Nations Program objectives, what they call what? Sustainable Development Goals. And they control every aspect of your life that you need to be able to live as a human being on God's earth, but not in freedom and not in peace, because they will force vaccinate you. Because why? Because if you're living in the herd environment, you got to do what's good for the greater good. They will have us radiated by 5G and use the same technology to control and peer into our lives. So this is Agenda 2030. Does that sound like democracy for you? No, it doesn't, does it? So New Zealand isn't the only country singled out for this. This is a global program. And when you read it in these programs and you find out about them, it becomes very, very seriously clear what the whole point of the United Nations was all about from day one. But I want to assure you today, every one of you here, that all these things are happening, that's for sure. They want to control that, but at the core of it is that they want to control spirituality. That's at the very core and the centre of it. Make no mistake about that. Right. So let's go back to the COVID-19 issue. The COVID-19 hoax, as I call it, now I want to quantify that. I'm not saying that this virus doesn't exist. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is that the evidence is around that something else is controlling the narrative around the COVID-19 hoax to push us into a place of acceptance and compliance for anything they want to do. That's what I mean by a hoax, because they're using it to do what? To bring these, I believe with all my heart, to bring these agendas into full implementation in New Zealand and around the world. And the interesting thing about Jacinda Ardern, our Prime Minister, is that last year in August, she was at the Goalkeepers event, funded by who and presented by who? Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, where she stood on stage, it's not too dissimilar to this, and she says that she and her government were 100% committed to the full entrenchment and implementation of Agenda 2030 in New Zealand, and that she would lead New Zealand ahead of the rest of the world to see this fully established. Do we want that? No. Not on your life. So the COVID-19 hoax has been based on the proven faulty information of Dr. Ferguson. But how so? Let's qualify that. Because what happened was, and this is what got me really revved up, is that a few weeks into the lockdown, a hero arrives on the scene. This hero has a name, and his name is Dr. John Ioannidis. Dr. John Ioannidis is one of the head research scientists from Stanford University. Stanford University, globally recognised for its excellence in any field. And he turns up and very calmly says, and this is during lockdown 4, alert level 4, and he says to the entire world very, very calmly in his Greek-American accent, well, everybody, this virus, we need to look at it from a medical and science-based integrity basis. And I just want to let you all know that the narrative around it is not right. It's not accurate, and the basis of it is faulty. Now, this guy is a professor of population health and epidemiology. Do you know of him? Anyone know Dr. John Ioannidis? What a great man, eh? Very calming and very sensible and very credible. And he says that this is all wrong. Don't take notice of it, governments. You need to rethink your approach to it, because you're using a sledgehammer on a grasshopper. So what he said was, just wash your hands, sneeze into your arm. If you can do that, we'll be safe, and just go about your business. No lockdown, just be careful. Right? And then at the same time, in New Zealand, in Aotearoa, our own experts turn up on the scene saying the same thing. And one of them is Professor Dr. Simon Thornley from Auckland University, representing a bunch of New Zealand scientists, who said to Dr. Ashley Bloomfield, "You're wrong, it's faulty, the medical basis, the health basis is not there, this is wrong, you're overreaching." And he said exactly what John said. He said, "Wash your hands, be careful, sneeze into your arm, and we'll be safe, but there's no reason for this lockdown." He called it, it's an overreaching of the government. But why? But why? And just on that note around lethality, Dr. John Lionelis came out again about 2 weeks ago, and he gave us an update, because what he said back then was that the lethality of the virus wasn't 3 to 6%, it was 0.008%. He came out 2 weeks ago and said, well, sorry, it's actually 0.004%. Do you understand that? Yeah, it's actually just under less than the normal flu that we get each year, and loads of people die from that, unfortunately. Loads of people have died from that each year, and I'm sad for those people. But he blew the lid on it again. But what he said was, and when you dig into the lethality research around the planet, there are scientists in Germany, in Sweden, everywhere that you can think of that have said this is completely wrong. Hundreds of them now. Medical practitioners at the forefront of dealing with it said, what crisis? What crisis? So why are they wanting to do this? Well, before we move on to that, so this information was validated by the crooked WHO, and why do I say crooked? Because they have worked with Bill Gates before on vaccination, they call it immunisation campaigns in Africa that have sterilised thousands, hundreds of thousands of African men and women, and the WHO was called on that by some very smart research and investigative reporters, and they had to come out, and finally, after being hammered, they admitted that the Bill Gates vaccine program had sterilised men and women in Africa. So they're not to be trusted. They're headed by a communist, and I don't trust them. Anyone that would ask that Robert Mugabe be an ambassador for them has got to have a serious screw loose. I'm sorry to say that. But additional to the WHO validation was, of course, Bill Gates, Tony Fauci, and Neil Ferguson, and a whole bunch of other people that are getting paid loads and loads of money to say the same thing. But we do understand that it's a strong flu equivalent virus. But Dr. Ashley Bloomfield, under the direction of Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, and despite objections from our own medical people, then used this pandemic to destroy our Kiwi way of life. This pandemic has been the very cause that globalist political leaders have needed to usher in the United Nations agendas, UN agendas 21 and 2030, which are the greatest challenges to personal liberties of every human being that we've never seen. These programs will force us all, as I said, into a funnel of control of every aspect necessary for a human to survive. And this will cause untold misery for all generations that understand freedom. That's all of us, not the babies, that's us. Why? Because we know what it's like to grow around fruit and veggies, our tomatoes, our kumara, our potato, our pumpkins, our cucumber, and on and on. We know what it's like to run barefoot and into the sea and go and get our kaimoana. We know what it's like to build things ourselves on our own land and without question, as long as you've got a consent, or even without a consent, you can have a non-consented building. But under all of this, this gets destroyed, and that will cause us such misery that no one appreciates freedom. But the kids are the ones they want to get at, and that's why they've got them in school and they're trying to dump them down. They've been doing it for about 15, 20 years, really. Probably 25 years, because my adult children are products of that, and they look at life slightly different, I believe, because they have gone up through the system. My young ones don't. They've never been through it. They're really super savvy. You ask my babies about anything to do with any of this, they're on it. They're like that. But most kids aren't, because they know that if they can dumb down our kids, jack them up with vaccines, jack them up with sugar, get them on devices and distract them, they know that they've got a population that they can control, don't they? That's why I'm a big believer, if you can, homeschooling is a really good option, and we've chosen that for ourselves. We've been blessed enough to be able to do that. But if they fully get this Agenda 2030 through, we will become a shadow of the humanity that we are today. But the second most alarming impact from this crisis has been the lockdown, has it not? And through this crisis, They brought in a long-winded, unnecessary lockdown that has completely destroyed lives and businesses, caused suicides. I had 6 men in our community commit suicide in the first few weeks. But it's also the unmeasured, yet unmeasured health impact of all the undiagnosed cancers, heart diseases, diabetes, because the attention of the priority of the medical establishment was given, of course, to dealing with the COVID-19 tsunami of patients that didn't come, that did not arrive. But aside from that, whānau, is the systematic destruction of our rights and freedoms and democracy that we all love and expect as free-thinking, freedom-loving New Zealanders. And how's that? Through the COVID-19 Health Response Bill. That's number 1. Because when I looked at that, I thought, oh my gosh, okay, this is just too much. What does it mean? Well, if you go to section 20 of the COVID-19 Health Response Bill, it's all about enforcement. So I went and studied that because I've studied enforcement. And what it says in there is that they can designate an authorised person, that's anyone with a high-vis vest and a clipboard, to come onto your land, your workplace, without warrant, and take you and your family away and perform a medical examination or an ISA procedure. And it goes on, and around, I think it's clause 4 to 6, talks about a constable having the right without warrant to come into your dwelling house or your marae and take you and your family without warrant away for a medical examination, even if you don't want it. Sorry, tough luck, goodbye, you're off. Now, when I was saying medical procedure, I had a smart person try and have a go at me through Facebook, and she's saying, well, actually it says medical examination, not medical procedure, as if that really mattered. But I actually said to her, well, actually, I've been a voluntary fireman. I've been first aid trained all throughout my life as a first responder. And I can assure you that when a 6-inch COVID-19 test swab is forced up through your nasal passage so far back it scrapes the back of your throat, I'd pretty much call that a medical procedure, wouldn't you? Damn straight. So who is she working for? So this is the beginning of the destruction of democracy that we would seek to expect. But of course, just over 3 weeks ago, it takes another ugly turn. She then the government hands over the management of the protocol around quarantine management of COVID-19 to who? The military. And I was super furious when that happened. I'd been in the beehive that day listening to 5G submissions, and I want to acknowledge that Sue Gray from the Outdoors Party did a fantastic job at that. It's just a shame that they were so selfish in their party they wouldn't merge with us. Now, that night when we got the information, we actually knew about 4 or 5 days, because we have our own sources as well that give us information, right? But we didn't want to go to Facebook or media with it, because we wanted to see how it played out. And then it gets announced that a Commodore had been given the jurisdictional management authority to handle the quarantine aspect of it. And I said immediately, whichever way you look at it, this is military type law, this is martial type law. And I had someone else have a go at me and say, well, hold on a second, Billy. In section 20, it says only a constable can do this, can go into, only a constable. As if that's an improvement. Only a constable can come into your property and do these things. But you had in provision 2 things. Number 1, that when you hand any type of jurisdictional enforcement authority to a military commander, that's military law. Like his own conduct comes under armed forces law. And it's proven today, because this family that we heard from yesterday, they said to me, this is really weird, we can't find anyone to deal with us. We've only got a flight attendant to ask questions to, who was downstairs in the reception area. And I said to her, who's doing the security? Air Force security. Is this a military operation? You bet your life on it, it is. There's no need to be conjectural about this at all, or make up your own thing. It's bad enough as it is. But what's happened is that if he so chooses to appoint military police, New Zealand Army military police, Air Force security, naval regulators, which are the Navy police, to go onto your property. I guarantee it's going to have the same enforcement capability as an unwarranted constable. Why? Because it says in the military handbook that I studied, it said that in times of warfare and in civil emergency, when this is handed over to a military commander, civilian law becomes subject to it. Now that was 18 years ago. The second thing, since I studied that, the second thing that this lady didn't know is that 18 years ago I was in Upper Hutt at Trentham Army Camp doing my tour of duty, the Trentham Military Police Unit, studying this. I'm still open to being proven wrong, but whichever way you look at it, this is military law and that's unacceptable. And if that's not enough, then one Tracy Martin, New Zealand First MP, she arrives on the scene and says, guess what, I'm going to introduce the internet filtering bill. Have you guys heard of that? Yeah. What does that mean? By their definitions of what they term objectionable, which is open for interpretation, they could go onto old Frank's website and go to, oh Frank, we don't like what you've got on your website here, we want you to take it down. Frank goes, no, I'm not going to do that, I'm democratic. Then they get back to them and say, oh Frank, you know, you've got some stuff that we don't like on your business website, take it down. He says, no, I'm not going to do that, I'm democratic. And they say, right, okay. Then they restrict his broadcasting reach. Third time lucky, oh Frank, take it down, mate, you know, this is just not good. And he says, no, go away, I'm democratic. And they said, well, not anymore. And they turn up, arrest old Frank and give him a $200,000 fine. Does that sound like democracy to you? No. It doesn't, does it? But let's be sensible. I'm not talking about the objectionable terrorism rubbish. I'm not talking about anything to do with stuff that we know is objectionable. Pornography, and you know, all that stuff that I don't want to talk about here. That stuff we know makes sense. Not the I don't like Jacinda Ardern stuff, if they so desire that it's objectionable to them. Because when will it end? And that's the issue. That's the issue. When it's indiscriminate on their part to interpret anything they want to, they've actually opened the door to themselves to take it anywhere they like. And that is the issue, whānau, right here and now. But it doesn't end there, because the next thing they do, as per David Seymour's website at ACT, it says, guess what, New Zealand? They're going to do 15 new bills in 17 hours. Who's seen that? So can you believe it? Another 15 bills, but they're saying they'll read them in 17 hours. But there's one thing that does concern me. They've got a thing called the what? The New Zealand Bill of Rights Amendments Act in it. But what does that really mean? What does that mean? We've got to ask the question. I don't know the answer right now, so I'm going to leave it there. But why do I think all this matters? Because I believe with all my heart that in order to bring in these agendas of complete socialism and with the strength of fascism through the corporate multinationals that will control flow of money and food, what you grow, I believe that they have used this crisis as an opening wedge to introduce these two programs. Now, the New Zealand Public Party, we're a multi-issue party, but freedom and democracy is what we're talking about in this instance right now. And if we aren't aware of these things, we're going to lose the very things that we love. But in order to bring these in, they need to collapse and destroy the middle classes. They need to destroy SME businesses, small, medium enterprise businesses, and the New Zealand economy. Why? Because underneath socialism anyway, they need to collapse the middle right down to the lowest common denominator, and so that you're economically reliant on who? The government, the state. But what they never mention in communism is that there's two layers of people. The bottom layer is all of us, because we're the herd, but we're called the proletariat, and up here they are called the hierarchy, and they never talk about that. Why? Because they sit in the hierarchy while we are on our universally agreed wage down here that our former Prime Minister Helen Clark wants to see introduced into New Zealand. So in order to bring in these agendas, they need to destroy freedom as we know it. They need to build a hedge of protective legal frameworks around them, because there is no constitutional protection for us in New Zealand. None. Michael Stacey had an argument with a debate online from, where was it, Michael? Where was the guy arguing about the Constitution from? The forum?
Oh, New Zealand political Facebook page. Right,
the New Zealand Political Forum Facebook page was trying to say, you know, you guys want to create a constitution. It's because there is no constitution. Are you aware of that? There is no constitution. That's why there needs to be one. And that's why when you get an out of control, overreaching government like this, that they can do what they're doing because there's no restraint process to them. And that's why she's able to fall with the New Zealand Bill of Rights. Because we can't do anything. You can turn up with your $500,000 person petition and they'll laugh at you. Well done, good on you, Frank. And they won't need to do anything with it. But they need to destroy these things and create these petitions around them so they can do these things. So, we are now standing at the edge of the cliff. Because why? Because there's an election coming up where we better work together as one family unit, whānau, to stand together to get this government out. But not only that, to stop any chance of National going in to do the same things except wearing a blue jacket. Correct? So this is about pragmatism on all of our parts. Whatever we think we are different to our neighbour, if they support this, then we've got to work together. Racial divide and all that nonsense, just over already, I tell you. So we now need to make a decision as a family. And I want to ask you two things before we move into the final part of this. Is number one, do you want to let a small group of people that aren't even New Zealanders from foreign halls of power, with a small group of people in our country, do you want to let them decide your future and those of your grandchildren? Do you want that? No. Will you join the New Zealand Public Party and stand up for freedom and democracy and restoring our democracy and protecting our economy and our sovereignty? Will you do this? Thank you. KJ, can you go to the next slide, mate? So what we've done this past hour is this, and we're almost done. Can we change the next slide? Thanks, guys. We've looked at the Labour coalition. No, sorry, go back one. I should have had the clicker. The Labour government coalition. Next one. What are they trying to do to us? So right then and there, they want to destroy our economy, destroy our environment, and they want to merge us into a foreign program like Agendas 21 and 2030. There's nothing more obvious to me than this. But what is the answer to this? What is the answer to this? Next one, thank you. The answer to this, guys, is this. Is that. Okay, Matthew, you can hit that button anytime. There you go, buddy. Well done, thank you. Your voice. We are your voice. I'm not a board man, I'm not a Scientologist, I'm not a blimmin' Freemason, I'm not a communist agent, I'm God's man, my wife's man, and I'm your man. But I'm your voice because I will say the stuff that no other political party will say. And it astounds me. This party is your power because you are the movement, not me. I want to say that really clear. There's two ways you can attack something like this when you're at the front of a movement like this. Number one, you can become a puffed up, arrogant politician. Or the other option, you can be humble and realise that this is a massive responsibility that you have, and you could be wise, and you can be a good king like King David. I'm not saying that I'm King David at all. I want to be like him. I want to be humble. I want to do the right things by this is your power. You've put me here. It wasn't designed at all by us, or certainly not by me. And so what we need to do to get together is that I need you to collectively keep on empowering me to do this. But we're your party. This is like nothing anyone has ever seen before in New Zealand politics. We're only 4 weeks old. We have over 3,500 registered members. We are the largest independent political party in New Zealand by none. Thank you. But let's just spend the last 10 minutes looking at what we stand for, because what I stand for is what you've given me to stand for. Can we hit the next one, please, Matt? Wow, look at that, thank you. All right, now before we get into it, there's no conspiracy about the pyramid, it's a PowerPoint. No, I'm serious, because I study, like my good friend Evan Sadler at the back there, we study pagan symbology and Egyptology and paganism. We studied it, well versed in it. But that's not this is a PowerPoint presentation, just saying. But what do we stand for very seriously? Number one, family. Number one is democracy. If we don't have democracy, reinstate it and defend it, there will be no monetary reform, there will be no outdoors activities, there will be no new conservatism. We lose everything. It's gone. So number one pillar, democracy. Underneath that, government integrity and accountability. Because what's happened is, not just this government, because I didn't like John Key, I didn't like him because he was selling out New Zealand from underneath us, right? So this is not a left and right issue, because behind the scenes, the same people pulling the strings are pulling both sides of the house, right? So government integrity, we need to bring it back into the house, as Bill Kalatiana said. So we're a bunch of houses, ordinary New Zealanders, going in there to restore integrity and accountability, because this government is way out of control, both through expenditure and democracy destruction like we've never seen. Okay, environmental sovereignty, let's get rid of 1080 yesterday. Let's get rid of There's one serious thing about it. I'm all about protecting our soil table, our water table, but believe me that the ultimate agenda behind 1080 is control. Yep. Why so? Because if you're living in one of the high-density super cities and you want to escape, where are you going to go to? Into the bush. And what are you going to do? You're going to eat off the forest, aren't you? Can't do it if it's all poison, can you? That's right. That light just went in my head about a month ago. I went, there it is. That's what it is, 1080. But we need to get rid of fluoride out of all water systems throughout the country. We need to stop 5G in its tracks until it's proven safe. And we need to protect our biodiversity. And who was the first Prime Minister to approve GMO crops in our fair land? Helen Clark. Helen Clark. And what is it that birds of a feather they flock? They're all on the same thing, aren't they? Okay, the next one there is Treaty of Waitangi. Why is that? Now, you know, when I was growing up, staunch as Māori father into Tiroranga Tiratanga Mena Mana Motahaki Māori. On this side I've got my French and Irish and Scottish mother over here, beautiful as she is. So when I was growing up in life, I had, talk about the treaty in our whānau environment, my Pākehā, my beloved Pākehā whānau, they're very rubbish over here, with all the Pākehās on the So I actually believe that God's given me a really good grounding and seeing both sides of the argument. But there's one thing I want to say to you, family, is this, and I want you to really focus on this, is that it came to me while studying this whole situation with the UN, the light went on. Again, the Treaty of Waitangi is not just a Māori document. Why? It's an all New Zealand document now more than ever. How? Because the deal between tangata whenua Māori is with the Crown, not with the United Nations. It's the only document we have. Let's come together as a family and use that document. Let's do that. Religious freedom. Why did I put that there? I am a Christian, as you know. I grew up with both parents are New Agers. My mum was a Buddhist. My dad used to follow the Krishna, was a divine light disciple, still follows a guru. For me, there is nothing greater than the truth of that. Jesus said, He is the way, the truth, and the life, and no one can go to the Father except by Him. That is the truth. I know that, but you know what? I will defend a Sikh, a Hindu, a Muslim, an atheist to believe what they want to believe, because that's freedom. Real public health. We need to realise that it's the pharmaceutical industry that controls our health system. We do. We also need to accept that there's a greater narrative, and that is human health is not necessarily at the end of a needle or swallowing of a pill. I'm on metformin because I've got diabetes in my family, type 2. So, but I'm trying to work it out. My diet's destroyed right now while I'm on campaigning trail. But when I'm at home, I'm eating veggies and out the garden, all the good stuff. But what I want is a recognition that there are viable, natural alternatives for health. Also over there, referenda consultative processes for the big issues, not the what colour should we paint the toilets at the Beehive type of issues. The big stuff like, shall we give unwarranted people access to go into your home and take you away? That type of referendum needs to be had. So we're still looking at that monetary reform, fixing the corrupt system, and that's what, I'll tell you what, this is why the international people will not have a go at me, because of this. The two things are the United Nations agendas and now monetary reform. That's why, because if they can keep us indebted and enslaved to a corrupt fractional reserve system, they've got us. So we need to look at that. Last tier here, whānau, defence. I'm an ex-military man and I'm proud of our military service men and women, and they need to be supported with the right gear so that they can frame up the right tactical response to any type of threat. That's number one. International relationships and trade, we now need to unpack what we've been signed up to so we know whether it's good for our people or not, and if it's not good, goodbye. Goodbye. But the last line here is protection of our national independence and our sovereignty. But why was it last, whānau? Why was it last? It's because if we don't have our own independence, true independence and our sovereignty, if we don't have that, along with economic and fiscal expertise to get us out of this dark hole, and we don't need another politician or another career bureaucrat making decisions about business when they've never been in business. Sorry, I forgot to address that one. And that's what we've got. Which government in the world turns up saying it's got a $50 billion budget but doesn't know what to do with 20 billion of it? That's serious. That's a serious indicator that this government doesn't know what it's doing and needs to get out. But this last thing here, protection of our national independence. Why last? Because in order to have true democracy for ourselves as New Zealanders, it needs to be based on our national sovereignty and our independence. If either one of them are not there, we can't have all the stuff in the middle. Do you understand that? Yeah. And what totally annihilates me is that all the little blinking parties didn't wake up to any of us. Any of it. I spent weeks speaking to this minor parties and said to them, look, let's work together. We've got this huge platform. Let's bring you on board. Let's work together and do this. And not one of them wanted to do it. And not one of them wanted to rescue us when we were in the registration process. Only one party out of 17 minor parties stood up and said, Billy, we'll put our own interests aside. You can use our party shell. We'll rebrand and use the new logo, New Zealand Public Party logo. You stay the leader. Everything stays the same. One party did it. And we're going to announce that on Monday. I wanted to do it tomorrow, but no, we're going to wait on Monday. And so when we announce it, whānau, please be grateful for me and for you, because no one was going to rescue us. Thank you. But I'm not the only one that feels passionate about this. I'd like to recognise a couple of people really quickly. I'd like to recognise a candidate that will end up standing for us down here in Christchurch. The first one I'm going to announce is Hori Kapa. If you could stand up, please. He's another... Thank you. The other gentleman up here who, have we got that microphone still up here? Is another man that's been working with us for a few weeks now. He's a local businessman, family man like me, and very, very similar to me, only a lot better looking. How about a warm welcome to Glenn McConnell? Thank you.
Well, mahare mai and welcome. It has been said already. No.
Check.
Okay. All right. So, so much of what I would have said has been very eloquently said by Billy already. I did have a long speech for you. No, it was a medium-sized speech for you. So I'm Glenn. I know a handful of people in here. So for those of you that don't know me, also family man, married nearly 33 years, spend most of my time in business circles in Christchurch, one way or another. Have been in management and senior management, program management in various capacities. Have worked in government. A wee handful of people in here have worked in there with me. Christian, go to Harmony Church. There's a wee handful of you people in here as well. Yeah. Look, without talking too much about me, I'm here to represent you, just like these guys are here, and I know that the best ideas come from the people, and I know that you guys have got some brilliant ideas and passionate about what has been said here, and I'm expecting you guys to contact me as the middle management to talk to these guys here and bring us some sensational ideas. Now, I've already had some conversations with a number of good people. We've got a fantastic team building here, and we've got some great advisors coming on board as well, and we would love to have more people involved. Talking to Eve, and standing in the back in the stairs, she did a wonderful job of collecting volunteers' details as you came in, and I understand it was well over 300 of you volunteered, so thank you for that. What that tells me is there's a lot of people here who are passionate about what is happening. And like me, you might have been reluctant to be involved in politics before. I got asked 4 times previously and said no. But the time has come where we can't sit back any longer. We have to get up, we have to do something, we have to get involved.
Yeah.
And I don't pretend I've got the answers, but I know that there are some amazing people in the wider team and in this group here, and we're going to put it together. And with God's grace, we'll get it there. And I believe we do have God's grace on us, because this would not have happened. We would have not got this far if we didn't have God's grace on it already. So thank you very much.
So guys, thank you very much. I also want to thank Shelley Richardson, I want to thank Eve, I want to thank Ollie Brown, I want to thank the entire team, Peter, I can't see where all the crew are, but I want to thank you as well. I want to thank Michael Stace, our party director. This man here is the brains behind the operation. Michael Stace. I want to thank our party secretary, Mr. Bill Kalatiana. I want to thank our political assistant over here, also KJ Stells. And I want to thank our sound men and AV team. Thank you. So, Kano, if I could leave you with just a couple of things to do for me. Number one, if you haven't already, please sign up as a member. Oh, excuse me, we've got some other candidates here. There they are. Nina, would you stand up? This is our Rodney County candidate. She's a speech. Great. Nina, can I invite you to come and say a few words? Come on, ladies and gentlemen, this is Nina. That was a loud kiss.
Into it. Wow, it's a real honour to be here, to be part of this cause. This is great change in our midst. And no change is going to come unless we all join together and take that action that's required. No more sitting back and letting it all happen around us. Yeah. It's up to us. So I'm here today to share with you the fact that we can work together to create solutions to provide a new form of governance in New Zealand that truly reflects the needs of every single New Zealander. Together we can provide wholesome food and water, warm and comfortable housing, affordable power and transportation, and most importantly, extend security and kindness, education and knowledge to everyone without exception in New Zealand. We can achieve this by creating self-generating systems to support all of these needs. This is totally achievable. However, only if we can cooperate as sovereign individuals who respect the rights and boundaries of each other for fair and equitable governance. Enlightened and transparent self-governance is the foundation for a free social society operating on love and cooperation. It is only with this foundation in place that we will be able to avoid all of our current problems that are entrapping New Zealanders into a system of political authority that is currently controlling and regulating our behaviour in all aspects of our lives. A new and enlightened style of self-governance has to be an ever-evolving, co-creative process that we continually discover as we fully engage ourselves within it. Every idea needs to be accepted in an open source manner, tested and applied where it is willing to be accepted through voluntary participation, all of you people, and self-organized processes. We must be clear that it is only through enlightened self-governance that we will be able to build an entirely new type of social society that is self-organized to solve problems and address the needs of every New Zealander as a genuine expression of the desire and commitment to cooperate and make New Zealand a home that benefits everyone. To achieve this, all of us are required to adopt a new way of thinking, organising, and taking action. All of the old models of centralised top-down authority need to be changed. We must quickly and effectively prepare ourselves for a leap in faith in our own ability to transit into a new and uplifted style of self-governance through enlightenment. We must transcend obedience and enslavement in order to heal ourselves and our natural world. We must all choose to stand for truth as sovereign beings and take action to oppose all forms of deception, manipulation, and enslavement. Remember, when a well-packaged web of lies has been sold gradually and stealthily to New Zealanders, the truth at first may seem a little preposterous to the unaware.
That's right.
However, once recognised, New Zealanders will demand rapid change from a system model of competition, domination, and deception, transforming it into one of symbiosis and cooperation, where governance is open and transparent, favouring everyone. How much more evidence do we all need to realise the tyranny we are currently under?
Is she right? Is she right?
Yeah, thanks.
I'm getting that there's 100 people outside wanting to come in for the next one. Is that right? I'll just let you finish, Nina. Thank you.
I'm only going to do one more now.
Go on, go. You're welcome. Go for it.
The New Zealand Public Party is here to support and mentor New Zealanders into this new, more enlightened way of governance that truly reflects the spirit and freedoms of all New Zealanders.
Lena, stay up here, love. Stay up here. Thank you. So, family, thank you for tonight. Have you enjoyed it? Yeah. Has it given you hope? Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our team that have looked after us tonight, and I mean all of our team that have looked after us tonight. Please keep in touch. Go to our website, NZPP.org, and sign up if you haven't. In the next couple of days, you'll receive a love letter from Michael Stace asking for your $15 membership. And $15 for 2 years isn't a bad deal to save our country. What do you think? And spread the word. Please tell everybody about us. Share it credibly, calmly, and factually that the New Zealand Public Party is your voice, your power, and your party. Travel safely home. God bless. I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.